Yeah, well, let's dig in. Hello, everybody. I'm David Cooks, and I tell you what, we know that paralysis can take on many forms. It can be physical like mine, or it can be psychological. You put your mind to. And what we try to do is feature stories that go from difficult places to fulfilling purpose. What seems impossible can be done by you. He is an award-winning author of Money Grows on Trees and The Naked Trader. It may knock you down, but don't let it stop you. He's built a global stock market education brand that trades over $120 million in capital. Got so much to give, a lot of life to live. You must go from paralysis to purpose. Get your pen and paper out. Yeah, I'm taking notes. Paralysis to purpose. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. I'm your host, David Cooks, and hey, I'm excited about this episode today. I'm always excited because I get to speak with some of the most intriguing and inspiring people on the planet. Today's no exception, but before I tell you who he is, I need you to like and share this podcast. This podcast is life-changing. If people will listen to it, I'm telling you, there's stories on here that will encourage you, inspire you. We do some educational things as well. So make sure you like, share. You guys know what this is. This is 2023. Help me out. So, well, I'm excited. I don't know who's more excited about today. We're going to talk about money today. And I think you're going to really like this. Our guest today is, let me just kind of get his stuff together. I'll tell you what he wants you to know, that he's a husband, a father of two. He's some kind of athlete that does like Iron Man and all that kind of stuff, which he loves to do. That's the stuff. When I said, send me your bio. And, he put that stuff on there. I said, all right, well, what about the some of the other stuff? Whatever. So the whole 14,200 jump ropes in a day with 10,000 push-ups in a day, who does that? Jerremy Alexander Newsome. We share the same middle name. Alexander is people don't know. That's royalty. That's kingship. That's all of that. So I'm gonna give you his bio, a little bit more of it. He is an award-winning author of a couple of best-selling books, Money Grows on Trees and The Naked Trader. I would encourage you to get them both. Money Grows on Trees is on audio, and so you can check that out. I didn't find the other one on audio though.
No,
is it?
It's not.
Okay, it's not. So that's why I got a hard copy. Fantastic books. He's the CEO of Real Life Trading. We'll talk about that. He's built a global stock market education brand that trades over $120 million in capital, and how he started that. And he's helping people with this. He's also the CEO of a foundation, the RL Foundation, where he's using his resources to meet the needs of people literally around the world. I wanted to give you that part of his resume. He wants you to know he's a dad and that he does jump ropes and stuff like that. So here we go. So Jerremy, welcome to Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast.
Thank you, brother. So it's so honored. It's so privileged to be here. You're a great man, great intro, perfect voice, and you do this profession justice. So I'm very excited about meeting with you today.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get right into it. I mean, you grew up dirt poor. You were in the southern part of Georgia, and you discovered that money actually literally grew on trees in the form of Blackberries.
Great segue. That's amazing. So, David, it's not about your resources. It's about your resourcefulness. Everyone has the same resources, right? We all have time. If we don't have money, we have time. And everyone has time. Not everyone has health. Everyone has time. What do you do with your time? So in 1994, I saw a movie, Forest Gump. And in that movie, Forrest walks to the mailbox. He opens a letter and said that Lieutenant Dan had invested into a fruit company and they didn't have to worry about money no mo. And he said, one less thing to worry about, right? Well, I had never heard anyone ever say they didn't have to worry about money. That was a whole shift for me. Everything began to change. And what was even more impactful is after that, David, do you remember what he did after he no longer asked to worry about money ever again?
I'm not gonna tell you I saw the movie because I used the movie in my econ classes when I taught econ to show the difference between pure competition and monopolies, and eventually he had a monopoly. So I'm there, okay?
I love
So
it. I love it. Okay, so yeah, you're in it then. So my
yes.
man, right? He builds a church, he builds a hospital, and he retires Bubba's mom so that she doesn't have to work in anybody's kitchen ever again. That led me to a subconscious like anchoring that wealthy people do great things with their money. They want to help, they want to inspire, they want to provide, they want to give. And I got so amped up about that. So I asked my dad, I bet, what is investing? What's the fruit company? He told me about Apple computers. He told me about the stock market. He told me about how it worked. I just started begging him to invest. All right. I was like, we need to do that. And 6-year-old optimism, right, in 1994 for me. But my dad was like, listen, very similar excuse you've heard a million times. Money doesn't grow on trees. What do you want me to do? Just go out and get money from a money tree? We're too poor to invest. That's for rich people. We're not smart enough. All the things, right? This is a movie. This is fiction. Wall, 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 wall. But I just saw the truth. I just saw evidence that this is possible for anybody because Forrest Gump didn't grow up rich either. So I begged him and begged him and begged him. Eventually said, listen, if you bring me some money, I'll match it dollar for dollar. So in the summer of 1994, I went and picked Blackberries and I sold them door to door because that was my resource at the time. All right. I didn't have much available. So I knew that I could transact something. And I just went and knocked on doors. And I had little old ladies everywhere, give me $20 here, $30 there, $10 there, because I was selling Blackberries for $1 a bag. But when you get a shoeless, shirtless, jean shorts wearing 6-year-old selling you hand-picked Blackberries for $1 a bag, you're going to buy some. So I made $1,500, man.
Wow.
In the summer of 1994. And true to his word, my dad, he matched it, and we bought $3,000 worth of Apple in 1994.
There's a lot in that. First of all, $1,500 of Blackberries in 1994. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
You're a young guy. That's a lot of Blackberries, man.
Dude. It was all summer. I mean, that's all I did from sun up to sundown. I picked Blackberries and sold them. Like I walked without exaggeration, tens of miles a day. I was out in the sun. I was working.
How did you think of Blackberries? Because we're going to talk about the fact that I just think you're wired to be an entrepreneur. I mean, and you think different.
That's a great compliment. Yeah, I take it as a compliment.
We need people that can do that. I have 2 peach trees in my backyard. Yeah, I'm in Wisconsin, and I do have peach trees. And they just produce like crazy. And last summer, I was like, at the end of the summer, I said, you know what? I need to start selling some of these. We can't eat them all.
There we go.
Everybody loves them. And I can go under market at a farmer stand.
Yep.
The tree cost me $30. Everything else is gravy. I had never really thought about it for whatever. And I've had peach trees for 20 years.
Sure.
And just never thought of that. You're 6 years old. The idea of you identifying something that could become a resource for you is amazing because you had nothing.
This is true. This is very true. What's crazy, man? It came from actually, I remember vividly. I was in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, and I was hungry. So I went and just ate a Blackberry. Like there's Blackberries everywhere down there. And I ate some. I was like, you know what? I bet other people would like this. And it was just this immediate, I bet people would pay for this convenience to eat this thing. They don't have to come and eat it here. They can eat it in their house. I don't know where it came from. I don't know that yet. It just, boom, immediately in my mind. And ever since then, that's how I've looked at the world. I've looked at the world from eyes of optimism and resources and what could I do with this? Because I see money everywhere. I see opportunities everywhere I go. And I'm always looking for them, granted, but that was a gift. If I have a gift, it's probably, I can see the positive in everything. And I do not see the negative. So that's the downside. The downside is I don't see the negative. I just like, oh, everything's going to be great all the time. So I've had a few failed businesses. I've had a failed marriage. I've had a lot of failures in my life. I've had things that did not work at all because I didn't see the negatives whatsoever. I only saw the positives. So there's pros and cons to everything.
One of the things that I gathered from Forest Gump, and I do some trading, but not at the level that I will be now that I know you. I've learned how to run, Forest, run. In other words, have an exit strategy in the marketplace and keep it. So if it's 30% return or 100% return, take it and run. Because if you don't, one of the things you talked about, and we'll touch on this a little bit, is the importance of preserving profit. You happen to get into Apple stock in 1995. What a time to get into Apple and just watch it grow. Forget trading, forget options and all that. Just the stock itself begin to just take off. And so you were watching your money work for you.
I did. And what was amazing, man, is my dad, it was a one-time thing, right? Like he bought some shares. He ended up buying it through Charles Schwab, which was one of the biggest companies in the world. And we actually moved from Georgia to Florida in 2000. Now I'm 12 years old. And when we move, I tell my dad, I'm like, hey, what's the Apple stock doing? So, he logs in at one point, checks it, and that $3,000 has turned into $12,000. So I ask him what to do with it. He goes, this is the greatest investment that you ever make in your life. You need to sell it, right? Take everything and lock it in. So we did. So at the age of 12, I sold those shares and made $12,000. And then at that stage, he told me to put it into something safe. So we put it into bonds at the age of 12. And I cashed those bonds out at the age of 18 for $12,024. So really, really good return.
So it was safe.
It was super safe, man. I didn't lose a dime except for inflation. But the selling of those shares was about a $32 million mistake. And it's amazing to see that even in the eyes of that 6-year-old that I would not have had to worry about money anymore. And granted, thankfully, I don't still at this point, but it was all this beautiful divine occurrence of just knowing what my purpose is on this earth, and my purpose and my mission is to enrich lives with mentally liberating education. Because I feel like once individuals know the secrets and they are aware of how to implement them, there's a difference between hearing the voice and then doing it, right? The implementation of both secrets and ideas is what creates opportunity for income. And in my opinion, if you have access to internet these days, you have access to income.
And therein lies the difference between knowledge and wisdom. You talked about purpose, and we talk about perspective, perseverance, and partnership. And so I've often said that we all have a common purpose. There are things that are specific to our calling or what we've been endowed with. But part of that purpose always includes serving others, making other people's lives better. Can you just talk a little bit about the importance of service to you? Talk about and how you came to that point of understanding.
I believe if you ask most children, probably under the age of 10, and you ask them, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it? Almost every child inherently mentions how much they want to help their parents, right? They want to give money away. It's all about giving, because the secret to living is giving. And the more you give, the more you receive, right? We have all of these beautiful, obvious texts, scriptures, paragraphs, and stories about the law of the universe, the law of God, which is if you give more, you'll get more. And I think a lot of people forget that. And when we hear giving, we sometimes generally initially think money. But here's a fun one for all your listeners. Money is your least valuable asset. It's a valuable asset. It's just the lowest one that you have. Health is way above money. Life is way above money. Time is way above money. Relationships with your wife, your kids, your friends, way above money. So there are tons and tons of assets that people have that are much more valuable than money. And I think purpose is probably up there, top three, because you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. With little clarity comes little results. We will need something greater than ourselves. Doesn't matter what it is for an individual. It can be God, it can be universe, it can be their religion, it can be their church, it can be their community, it can be their music, but you need to be pulled by your dreams rather than pushed by your problems. And when you start to really circumvent all the challenges that we have in life, because you sit down and just think about how is my purpose can be represented in this, it moves you. And I've always thought, felt, and been driven by that desire, that subconscious urge, almost the same urge everyone has to eat food. That's the same urge that's in my body to give relentlessly.
Yeah, that's the unique gifting. And to have that not as an afterthought, that was at the beginning of your process. That gives you a lot of clarity up front if you know that you're driven to giving, period. And you can never give enough. Therefore, you can never have enough. What I'm saying is that there's so much that you can receive that you will never stop receiving because you are always giving.
I love that, my man, because here's a beautiful topic. So you're talking about your trees, your peach trees, right? Too. And here would be an example of giving too much, because there is a way to give too much. You have to know your boundaries. You have to know where you're at. You have to know what you stand for. Very popular country song, right? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So you have to have boundaries. You have to know what it is that you're giving. So if you cut the trees down with a saw and gave the trees full of peaches to individuals, that would be worth something. That'd be worth some type of transactional unit. But then you'd have no more trees. And the trees would not be doing what they're supposed to do, which is create, provide, give, nourish. So that's a way to give. And a lot of people do. They give from something that's empty. They cut that tree down. They make it a one-time transaction. That's why money is one of your least valuable assets, because if you give all of your money away, well, now your money's gone. You don't have any more. Now you might go get something some other way, but it's gonna be harder to replenish, most likely. But instead, if you give companionship, ideas, energy, thoughts, prayer, community, gifts, right? You give some of your time, you volunteer, you start giving something that has really beautiful value. Now, just like you, David, instead of cutting your tree down, you're just giving from the tree in surplus, and it can just continually, perpetually do that. And even something as easy and simple as giving in excess of a fruit tree, if you continue to do that, people will know you as someone who is always giving, and that's going to come back to you full force.
I think this would be a great place to take a quick break. And when we come back, I do want to discuss, why is it possible to love milkshakes and to love money? And when we come back on Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, Jeremy's going to break that down for you. And we're going to talk about the fact that we both love money.
We hope you're enjoying Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Paralysis to Purpose for more updates. Also, check out David's website at davidcookspeaks.com to learn more about his mission and purchase his book, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, with our guest, Jerremy Newsome. We've been having a great conversation about money and wealth in general. You've lost some money in the market, and you talk about that in your book. And I think it was like over $1 million or 1.2 or 1.5 million. You lost everything of other people's money.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that situation and the things you learned from that, and why, as I say, as long as there's time on the clock, you can make a change?
Yeah.
And one of my other mentors always says, in the stock market, there's always another trade. Don't worry about that. There's always another trade.
Yeah, you're 100% right. For me, it started when I was about 19. I was learning about my 401k. I had a 401k at work. I worked at a company called Nationwide Insurance. Had a 401k, had the job, insurance, good pay. It was nice. Great experience working there. But while I was there, I learned about something called a self-directed 401k, because I was one of those weirdos that actually read what you're invested in. And I read all of it, everything. I learned everything about the 401ks. So I learned that you can trade inside your own 401k. I went to Google. I typed in which silver stock to buy. Done. Research is over. First stock that came up was First Majestic Silver, ticker symbol AG. It's still around to this day. It was trading at $9 a share. I pull up my 401k. I have $9,000 in there. I did the math. All right, I can buy 1,000 shares all in. That was it. Stock went up to $12 and I made $3,000 in like 6 or 7 days. The problem with that, David, was that was more money than I made at work in a month. And I just made $3,000 with a button click from my finger. So everything started changing because I knew you could make money, but I didn't know you could make money quickly. And I certainly didn't know you could make more money than you made at work. And I definitely didn't think that I could make more money than I made at work trading the stock market, but I just saw it come true. Everything started changing. Told my dad, he lost his mind. I told some friends, they lost their mind. And I started trading more and more capital because people were like, well, if you can do that, try to do that for me. So I got their logins to their accounts and started trading their money. So at the age of about 20-ish, I had over $400,000 of other people's money that I was trading. And I made a very compelling offer. I'm a great salesman. My offer was, I'll give you a 36% return guaranteed in a year. And I'm not going to even pay myself until you get a 36% return.
You said 36%?
36%. Yeah, that's what because that's how much 9,000, 12,000 is like 36%. So I was like, that's it. If I did it once, I can do it a million times.
Oh boy.
So I did. I started trading effectively and I took 400,000 and grew it into 1.2 million. And I was the golden boy, man. I couldn't do anything wrong. I was going to college. I was buying all the bars, drinks, and like I was the guy in town. Everyone knew me. It was really cool because I was doing so well trading. And then I currently hold the unofficial Guinness World Book of Records for buying silver at its highest price ever. And I did it with something called call options, which actually expire worthless, as you know. Yes. So I bought these options with all of the money. So I took $1.2 million and went boop, because that fearlessness, that whatever, that risk it all on a game of pitch and toss, that was me. So I did it and I lost all of it right around my 21st birthday. So I called the investors, I called my dad, I called the people, I told them, and my dad was like, well, listen, everyone else is probably more important than me, but like, let's do our best to get our money back. What's your plan? And I told him, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll pay everyone back. I'll still pay him back with interest, but it'll be over time. And so I sat there and did the calculations and I figured out, okay, I had borrowed, I was trading about $400,000. So 20% or so would be about $480,000. So I told everyone, listen, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but $4,000 a month, 12 months a year for 10 years, I'll pay you back. So even though I lost it, I kept the reserve. I kept the best of my ability, kept my honor to the best of my ability, kept my integrity, and really, really try. Because again, at the age of 21, what are you going to do?
You talk about the importance of financial empowerment versus financial literacy, which I think is the difference between, again, knowledge and wisdom. I think empowerment is the application of the literacy that you learn. As a Black man, the wealth gap between the poor and the not poor and the Black and the white has always been a concern of mine. And I've often wondered, and I'm posing this as a question to you, why has it been so difficult to change our curriculum in this country, especially in the urban poor areas, to provide this type of education in elementary school? I mean, we're doing it for gender and pronouns and everything else. Why can't we get this in the hands of people who can enrich their lives for generations and empower people with that? I want you to talk about financial empowerment in the context of social justice, because you're a part of that process too.
Thank you for saying that, because that's my number one goal for the next 10, 20 years of my life is to change, fix, update, and correct the educational system of America, because there's a glaring issue. And here's my current belief of why that is. I do not believe the people who are in charge know how this works. I don't. I take the rosy colored glasses perspective of, there's not some random family out in the middle of nowhere who's holding us all down because they want to stay wealthy. I mean, although that's a valid argument for some, I just don't think a lot of people know, because I teach them. I go to financial advisors. I go to teachers, firemen, policemen, lawyers, doctors, musicians, real estate multimillionaires and billionaires. Like, I've met and worked with extremely wealthy individuals who have no idea how the stock market works. They get the gist
Right.
But they don't really know how to log in. They don't know how to access. They don't know how to view. They don't know how to understand. They don't know how to buy, sell. They don't know how the buttons work. They don't know. And here's my valid reason of why. The stock market's only been around for 130-ish years. So if your dad's dad didn't teach you, your mom's mom didn't teach you, you don't know. But for white America, right, we've been involved in real estate for hundreds of years. We've been able to own real estate for hundreds of years. Real estate is something that we're aware of, right?
Yes.
But the Black community has only been able to own real estate for how long? So the
Right.
generational wealth, there is a disparity there. And I think we change that by individuals like you and I having conversations exactly like this, where we disperse the information and let everyone know that anyone can access this. Anyone has the capability to access this information. Because again, there's financial literacy. 1 + 1 = 2, or 1 + 1 can equal 11. It's up to you to decide which one is correct and which one is the most meaningful for you. For me, 1 + 1 is always equal to 11, which means you can always take the sum of parts and they can be greater than what they actually are on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can really start to build something out that allows many, many individuals to truly create wealth by using their knowledge and knowing how to do it, you change the game. I mean, my guy, there are kids everywhere that are making thousands of dollars a year on YouTube and Twitch and playing video games. So they are using the internet in a great way to create wealth because they are entertaining other folks. So this is something that people can certainly do as of now going forward.
I'm with you 100%. And I've been trying to talk to parents about give your children a stock for Christmas.
Yeah.
It could just be one share of Coke, one share of whatever they like. Just find what that company is. And instead of buying them, a whole bunch of things, give them some stock and begin that conversation. And it's going to probably be an education process for you as well as an adult, but you're beginning that process and it could change generational wealth.
That's what we got to do. Like we just have to start implementing that. We have to start teaching people that it's better, easier, and more accessible to be an owner and not just a consumer. Because the only way that I know, the only way to become wealthy, rich, and financially free is to buy assets. That's it. You have to buy, own, keep. You have to have assets in your life. And if you do not buy assets, you will not be wealthy. You might have some money coming in, but it will be gone soon, because an asset is something that puts money into your pocket, into your life. Most individuals only have liabilities, right? They have a cell phone. That cell phone costs $100 a month, but that cell phone has the capability of creating thousands of dollars a month if used correctly with whatever, TikTok, Twitter, maybe you're writing poems, maybe you're posting blogs, videos, YouTube channels. If done correctly, you can make and create true value that gives something to people: hope, joy, happiness, entertainment. And from that, you're going to receive more money.
You talked about the importance of acquiring assets. Those are things that will benefit you, that will cause you to grow. And on a personal relationship level, and who you hang with and you network with, all that is about analyzing whether it's an asset or liability. And more power to the asset keepers, I tell you that. You said something in your book about how no one cares if I love milkshakes, but if I love money, then I'm some kind of greedy, evil person or something. And I started laughing when I heard that, because I never thought about it that way.
David, here's what's crazy. You have to love money because money is a relationship energy. So what I mean by that is, imagine you have a relationship with your wife, your husband, your friends, whoever it is in your life, someone you care about. If you tell them, I don't love you, I don't like you, I don't want to be around you, I don't want my friends to see you, you start talking to that person the way a lot of people talk to money, that person's not going to be in your life anymore, just like money is not in your life right now. You have to have the same words, right? The words you speak create the life that you live. If you are always thinking about, you want a lot of money, but you don't want to be greedy, or you want a lot of money, but you don't want people to know about it, because if they know about it, then they're going to ask you for it. And if they ask you for it and you have to say no, then you're an a-hole. So it's really, really fascinating, all of the undercurrents that we are built into and that we're taught by and that we live to believe. So I'm going to drop something on your listeners because I think they're going to love this, man. I'm going to talk about Jesus for a moment in a historical way. in a way of, do you remember, David, what the job of Judas was?
Oh, yeah. He's a treasurer.
He was a treasurer for Jesus. All right. So Jesus had enough money.
Look.
Uh-oh, hold on. I hope you're strapped in, folks. Jesus had enough money that he had some guy to carry it, to watch over it, to analyze it, to bank it, to keep it, to protect it, to invest it. Jesus had someone to carry his money around because he had so much. And that's why Judas got jealous, is because Jesus didn't care nearly as much about the money as he cared about people and about individuals. But Judas was looking at it all day. He wasn't looking up at the crowds of people that Jesus was helping. He was looking down at the money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, while Jesus was being crucified, what else happened? Well, there were 2 Roman guards, and those 2 Roman guards were gambling over something. You know what they were gambling over, right? They were gambling over his clothing. Why would 2 Roman guards, who are paid well, I mean, they're Roman guards, so they make money. Why would they gamble over someone's clothing, much less a criminal of the state? Not only were there value in it, they were pristine clothing made out of royal purple linen, which is extremely hard to find in that time. And they were imagine me and you wearing, handcrafted, bespoke Armani suits. It's the same thing. Very high quality of clothing. And that's what Jesus walked around with every day. He cared about what he looked like. He cared about his appearance. And man, when you start thinking about the world from those lenses, not the lenses that Jesus was broke and had nowhere to live, but he decided not to have anywhere to live because he had a mission that was so big and a calling that was so great. He didn't want to stand in one spot. He didn't want to have a house that held him down. He wanted to go all over the world. An incredible perspective will begin to shift when you start to really understand and recognize that in order for all of us to have more money, we have to love it, welcome it, and accept it into our hearts, into our lives.
And I will add one other thing to that. There was a rich man that went to get the body of Jesus and put it in his tomb. And if Joseph of Arimathea was not a rich man, he could not have afforded to do that. And then the gospel would not be complete. And so we talk about the use of resources, of money, to get things done effectively in the earth. And there's nothing wrong with loving money. You just can't love it more than God. I can't serve God in money, but I can serve God with my money. And the more money I have to serve him with, the more I can do to advance good in the earth. Because that's what we're trying to do, advance good in the earth.
That's right. Evil will rise when good men and women do nothing. We have to do something. We have to create, and using money as a resource, using money to amplify our hearts and our intentions and our goals and our dreams. That's what it's created for. Money is a tool. It can be a brick to build a house or a brick to break a window. Sure. We have to use it accordingly and for our intended purpose.
I remember in the book you said, at what point do you become greedy? Can you tell me if it's after $10,000? Is it after $10 million? When do you have greed set in? And the answer is never, if I was never greedy. When we talk about changing the mindset for money, I remember growing up and we didn't have much. So there was always a condition upon the money. What would be the best advice you would give to someone who struggles with the money seeds that have been planted into them mentally from a child on up, that has made them think that money is bad, but at the same time, they know they need it? Like how can we make people more comfortable with that?
If you want to succeed, you must read. So for me, what I did is I read a bunch of books about money and I got other people's perspectives. And then a lot of books, and one particular, I'll give a book for everyone who's listening. I know that David mentioned mine, but there's another book that I loved a lot called You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. And in my book, along with hers, we come up with questions and thought exercises for the readers to really analyze, interpret, meditate on, ponder over where you had your ideas. Who was the first person to talk to you about money? Who was the first person to show you what wealth was? Go back and really think about where you learned these from, because you can rewire your brain to believe anything at all. When you were in school, you might have a certain thought about math or calculus or percentages. And now that you're an adult, you might realize how important some of that math was and some of it might not have been. But at the time, it was everything because you had to pass your test. So you get to determine, where do you have to go back and start to piece some of those puzzles together, because we can rewire our brain to believe anything. A great example, David, my dad used to say this all the time: sleep when you're broke.
What did he say?
You can sleep when you're broke, and I'll sleep when I'm dead. Right? Would always talk about, like, sleep is for the weak. Work, hustle, grind, get after, work hard, put in all the energy and effort into doing and to creating and to making. And while that's a very, very noble cause, money becomes your God when you are always working for it. Mm. If you sit down and go, how often do I pray? How often do I read the Bible? How often do I go to church? How often do I do testimonies or services or whatever? 3 hours a week. All right, cool. And then you're going and working for how long? There's a discrepancy here. Yeah. Because all I'm getting at is, if you spend all of your time working and almost none of your time doing the thing that fulfills you, whoever that person might be, whatever it might be that fulfills you, then you're out of balance. And if you're out of balance, your soul's not going to be happy. Simple as that.
Money solves money problems, right? I think that's fair to say. It doesn't stop tornadoes from coming. It doesn't prevent sickness from coming. It doesn't do any of that. Let's be clear that what we're not saying is, if you have money, everything else in the world is going to be rosy. No, what we're saying, though, is that if you can reduce the stress of needing or having need by having the money, that will help with some other areas in your life potentially. You just talk about how in the midst of you growing in your money consciousness and in your money havingness, that life still happens. What do you do in those moments?
I think the biggest piece is to always keep your ideals and integrity strong about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you were here for a reason. You got this life. You got your one shot on earth. Both the pawn and the king get put in the same box at the end of the game. Are you going to try to create a legacy? What are you going to do? This is it. You've been given a gift. It's your one trip around the sun for however many times it's going to be doing it. Why? Why are you here? What stamp are you going to leave, and for whom? Mm-hmm. And is it for your children? Is it for your grandchildren? Is it for yourself? But go down trying. Really put in the effort. Really put in the cause and the direction to do your absolute best to create real change. Because those who are crazy enough to think they actually change the world are usually the ones who do.
Give me what comes to mind when you hear these three words, and I'll give them to you individually. The first word is perspective. When you hear the word perspective, what does that mean when you hear that word?
Everything. Perspective is everything. If you're walking down a road with giant buildings all around you, you might look at these buildings and go, wow, they're so huge, they're so massive, they're unscalable, they're unclimbable, they're so much bigger than I am. But then you get in a helicopter and you fly on top of them, they look tiny, minuscule, and itty bitty. Meaning what problems you might feel are insurmountable, other people have already accomplished or overcome. And so this is a lesson that Matt DeLong taught me, one of my mentors. And so when you sit down and just realize that you have the capability to change your perspective, if you change your perspective, you change everything in your life. If you want change your perspective.
Fantastic. Perseverance.
Perseverance, to me, is very similar to the word resiliency, which is going to be the name of one of my books in the future. Don't quit. It's always hard. There's always going to be fun challenges. Like, how boring would life be if you didn't have any opposition? How monotonous and pathetic would life be if we had nothing to conquer, no challenges to overcome? We would never be tested. We'd never be strong. We'd be meek and fragile. Perseverance is a gift because you have to have resistance to have perseverance.
Wow. And lastly, partnerships.
Partnerships are what create true scale in the world. So scale meaning if you ever want to grow beyond yourself, if you ever want to do something large, amazing, immaculate, gargantuan, you have to form powerful partnerships. And that partnership can be marriage, that partnership can be business, that partnership can be you and God, that partnership can be anything that you want, but you're going to have to create something. Can't do it all alone. You can go fast alone, but you're going to go big together.
Part of what Jerremy has done is he's really worked on changing, I think it said, your words, your thoughts, and your beliefs about money. What's in your head about money? What is it that makes it so unappealing to you, so evil to you, but something that you wish you had more of, but you really can't say that? That's just confusion as I look at it. So anyway, you got me all juiced up, Jerremy.
I appreciate it, man. David, it's been an absolute honor and privilege to be a part of your incredible podcast where you're inspiring and enriching the lives of so many. My man, thank you so much. And please reach out to me anytime. If you have a question, if you need something, if you want something, please let me be one of those people on the list that you reach out to, okay?
Fantastic. Again, Jerremy, thank you for being on the podcast today. You were a fantastic guest. If people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best social media way for them to find you?
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I mean, if you Google me, pull me up on social media, track me down, message me. I have a really great team that will make sure that your message gets answered by me. And I would love to connect with you and reach out to you.
Fantastic. This is David Cooks signing off until next time on Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, reminding you that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure.
You can do anything you put your mind to.
Thanks for tuning in to Paralysis to Purpose. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paralysis to Purpose on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. To purchase his book, visit davidcookspeaks.com. Be sure to tune in next time for more inspiring conversations with David Cooks.
Even as you highlight these individuals along my journey from Mrs. Bookman to Coach Morgan to Coach Driscoll in college, all of these things actually played a role in my faith. It seems as if on my journey, I had somebody every step along the journey who believed in me. When I didn't believe in myself, I had someone who was like divinely positioned to help me understand what I was capable of accomplishing in the world.
Next time on Paralysis to Purpose.
And they believed in my gifts. They believed in my intelligence. They believed in my leadership. It was a cumulative effect that caused me to actually change.
Paralysis to purpose.